Right, last time we went for a ride out on this little beauty with a friend of mine using his bike as the camera bike. Look, it wasn't perfect. It ran really well, but it wasn't quite perfect. So we'll deal with the engine and whatever may be up with that down the line. And the reason I'm taking a bit of a diversion is because I was on Facebook and I saw on the forum that an owner of one of these identical bikes, same colour, except it was 12 volt, not 6 volt. He said he was removing his fairing. He didn't say it was for sale, but I messaged him and said, mate, do you want to sell the fairing? And he said, well, yeah, I'm not going to fit it, so if it's of any use to you, yeah, you can buy the fairing off me. Because back in the day when these were the dispatch bikes that I was riding, most of them, the only ones that didn't have is because they'd probably been crashed, but most of them had a big Rickman fairing on it, and they were fantastic in the bad weather. It probably knocks 10 miles an hour off the top speed. They're quite heavy things. So I really, really wanted, with my rose-tinted spectacles, to at least try putting a fairing on, because I do love them like this. They're a beautiful, simple, naked, little kind of like buzz-around-town bike. But I did want to try one with a fairing. So, cut long story to a short, the guy said I could buy it off him for 40 quid. So it looked a little bit tatty and a bit cracked, but I thought, I don't care. So I was dropping paintwork off for the 5.4s I build. I was going up the M1, diverted to him, and lo and behold, this is what I came up with. So here is the fairing. This was on his bike. I have photos of it on, so I know it fits a Bentley, because this is the other thing. There's lots of these Rickman fairings, and a lot of people now don't know what they actually came off. They've just got the fairing or just the mounts. Very rarely, it's quite a rare thing to get the whole lot, especially for 40 quid. So I got this. It's got indicators on. They're a bit modernish looking for me. I'm going to try and fit those ones. And they'll have 12 volt bulbs in, but you can just change that to 6 volt bulbs. So there's the fairing. It also came with the screen. It's got these things in. Do you know what? I think that might be for a police banner, although I don't know. But they've been in there a long time, those. They're kind of, the chrome's bubbling on them. He's added this aluminium strip. I don't think that's standard. The fixings are quite nice. This was on there when I got it, but I've taken it off. This goes inside the fairing down at the bottom on those two and clamps to the single down tube. Because this is the other thing. I didn't pay any attention to how these were bolted on in the day. And I thought, I know it's come off this bike and I'll work it out. How complicated can it be? So I picked up the screen. Here's the mounting hardware. This kind of goes round here and attaches to there with, can you believe it, a Jubilee clip round here. But the problem was, when I picked it up, it's got these two lugs here, which are obviously, with a Jubilee clip round there, those take the main weight and the strain of it all. But there's nothing to bolt it onto. So I thought, well, he must have the brackets. So I contacted him and I said, mate, there's these here. Where's the brackets? And he said, oh no, mine had lugs welded on the frame. And I said, no, these were an aftermarket thing. Anyone could buy one and bolt it on. There's definitely some kind of mounting hardware that goes at the top here. And he was insisting it was welded on. And I said, mate, could you just have a look? Anyway, he had to rewire his headlamp, which we'll get into in a minute. Anyway, so I said, can you take your seat and tank off and have a look? So he took his seat and tank off, and lo and behold, he was a great chap. He was very, very helpful. He said, yeah, mate, these are around the tank mounting rubbers. You pull the rubber off, and there's a little metal rod sticking out. That slots over, and that ends up down here. So he said, this is what you're looking for. I'll post them to you. Meanwhile, I had offered this up and had a look. I held it on with a bungee round the handlebar just to have a look how it sat. And I noticed that this hole here is massive compared to this little 6 volt headlamp. So the 12 volt Bentley's had a bigger headlamp, and I said, mate, I said, if you're putting yours back to standard, have you got this smaller headlamp? And he said, yes, he said, because when I bolt on the one that was in the fairing, these were out at an angle. He said, it doesn't work. I said, no, it's meant to have a smaller headlamp if you're using these. And he said, all right, you can have the headlamp as well. So he posted me, he was a great chap, he posted me his headlamp shell, his glass, the chrome rim. These mounting brackets did come with all this other skullduggery. So I've now got a headlamp that kind of, well, it does perfectly. This is what was on there. Look, it fits, the holes line up. So that'll be going on. So that was that. And I was over the moon. Even though it's a bit tatty, I thought I can get Arnie to paint it down the line. Maybe I'll do it burgundy with these in a panel or something. So, but it might look too much with that much burgundy. So I'm undecided about that. And also back in the day, they were just either white or black, but 99% of them were white. So anyway, so I've got this one. I've got the really difficult bits, the bracketry and the screen. So that's great. But then I was on Facebook again, and then I saw advertised, I just put Rickman fairing into Marketplace. And sure enough, there was a picture of this one. So I messaged him, and I said, mate, what bike's it off? He went, I haven't got a clue. It's just in a lock-up I bought. I've got no mounting hardware, no screen. I thought, well, I've got the mounting hardware and screen. And what I did was, I lined that one up like that, and he had a photo of it, literally like that. And I thought, is it off a Bentley? I thought, I haven't got a clue, but a slight giveaway. Those are Bentley indicator mounts. And the other thing is, with the Bentley, with the twin exhaust, it's got these little lumps out here. Come in close, Harry. It's got these lumps here, which go round the exhaust. So that's got those, and this one's got the same. And I thought, well, there can't be many of them that had exactly that feature and the shapes around here. So, to be honest with you, I got it for 15 quid. And it's actually not as cracked as that one. It's still got the original Rickman stickers on, although they're lifting. And I think it's in better nick than that one. This one has actually got a fiberglass bodge repair around the indicator. When they get dropped, the indicator hits the ground and they get cracked around here. Very common. And also that one's got less stress cracks than this one. So I have offered this one up, I'll be honest. Not bolted anything on properly. So that one, and it came off a Bentley. Well, this, to me, it looks identical. So I'm going to do a bit of a hybrid. I'm going to use these brackets and screen, his headlamp, the tank mounts, and I'm going to try and put this one on. If it doesn't work, I can put that one on. So I'll just prep this a little bit. I gave it a wipe down. It was filthy. This had been in a lockup for probably 25, 30 years. It had bits of broken screen on it here. So I took that off, undid the bolts, which was solid. It took me about an hour to get the bolts out. And I've just put some 2mm thick neoprene strip here, just so that it doesn't really need it. But the good thing about doing that is it tends to stop it squeaking when it's, you know, vibrating over the road surface. They can squeak sometimes there without that. So I've cut a strip of that. It's got rain channels here, so when the screen's up here and that fills up with rain, it can drain, so it doesn't get a tide line in there because it sags in the middle. So that's drain holes there, so I've cut the neoprene around that. So I think really we're kind of ready to have a go and try and bolt it on absolutely properly. Now, you think, well, that can't take that long to bolt this on. I mean, the seat and tank have got to come off. That takes 5 minutes. But like everything, it's never quite as simple as you think it's going to be. The headlamp mounts on this bracket. It doesn't mount on these stays here. So we've got to take the headlamp off, get all the wiring out. That's not as bad as it seems. You open it and it's a bird's nest of wiring. You think, oh my God, I've got to pay real attention here. But a lot of the clips will only go to, the multi-connectors will only go to the right ones anyway. And there might be the odd one where you get a bit of paper and a pen or your camera and photograph how it goes so that you get everything back connected the right way. So look, in a nutshell, we've got to take the headlamp off. We've got to take these shrouds off because I think these, I don't know, I've not had a Bentley apart, but I think that might hold this up. And if that's the case, we've got to remove that because we're removing that. So to that end, somewhere, yeah, here we go. I've ordered some fork gaiters. Look, I just had a quick measure up, they might not fit. These cost me £4.99 off an auction site. So I think they'll go kind of there, which one stops the grip getting in. And I want to try and keep these shrouds on. These pop off when you replace the fork seals, but they'll fill up with water. They do have a drain hole at the back, but it's much better and it keeps the dust out the seals. Hopefully the seals are okay. Even if they're gone, I'm going to bolt the fairing on as it is and deal with that down the line. So look, it's time to get stuck in. Front wheel's got to come out, mudguard's got to come off, this has got to come off, that's got to come off, headlamp, bolt the brackets on, put the headlamp shell in, rewire everything. Now the other thing is, this headlamp had a 12-volt bulb in it, which isn't a problem. I've just bought a 6-volt one that is called a P45, believe it or not. I've dealt with those in the past. But it's got the 3 square pin connectors, which this one hasn't got. This has got the little 6-volt connector. So we're going to have to do a little bit of rewiring as well. It's very simple. It's like 3 wires. There's an earth wire, dip and main beam, and also the pilot light. We'll have to, I'm not sure till I get it all up exactly how I route it. And also these indicators, earth through the metal. Well, we're going to bolt them onto a fiberglass fairing, so we'll have to run an earth lead to an earth lead in the headlamp. So we've got a bit of skullduggery to do with the wiring. I'll try and keep it neat and tidy. But I don't foresee too many problems as long as this comes apart okay. Now look, this is a 40-year-old bike. A lot of this stuff can be seized. And if it is in the alley forks, you've got to go really carefully. So yesterday I sprayed a bit of penetrating oil on everything, just to leave it overnight, just to maybe give it a chance of coming out. But this mudguard, that's not the one it was sold with. So this stuff has been off. So hopefully it might not be too bad. So we'll get the seat off, tank off, and then I think we'll get the wheel out and forks out and headlamp off and just get that loose stuff bolted together. But as you can see, you look at this, you think it's 15 minutes. Is it hell? It's actually, to do it properly, it's a little bit involved, but it's nice to just stick the radio on and have a cup of tea. Talking of which, yeah, have a cup of tea and plod away with it and enjoy it. Don't let it stress you, especially if it starts going wrong. Right, let's set to and see if we can get a fairing on this thing. So first thing is get the seat and tank off. Well, I've got to get the tank off to get the top mounts on. You know, apparently they go on there. So, and you just put the rubbers back on and it pushes them up against the frame. So first thing is going to be those, but really, actually I'll tell a lie, that's not going to be the first thing. The first thing is to get all this lot off. Indicators, headlamp and shrouds. I might be doing a couple of other little bits and pieces just to improve it, which we'll talk about when we get to that stage. So we just get the seat off, it's easy, 2 rear bolts out that go through the lifting handles, or grab handles for the pillion. Seat and tank off, which on the belly isn't too bad. I wish the seats had a key, you could just flip it up, but you can't, you've got to remove it. Right, there we go, that's that off. Let's put that out of the way, that's not going to get damaged. Now the tank, the fuel pipe pulls off real easy because I haven't got the clips on it properly. I'm going to renew the fuel pipe at some point. I've got some new stuff I've ordered in. Tank's quite heavy now after our ride out. I did nearly brim it. It's about 3/4 full, I think. So let's get that in a safe place. Always take care to put the bits down safely. No, I've said that, I'll probably drop it. But there we go, that's the tank off. So, look, you pull these off, and this gives us our top mount. Just goes underneath all that lot. No, that'll stay there. And that will go on there. It's a bit tight, we might have to file something away there to get that on. And then that bolts to the top mount of the other thing. So, hang on a sec, let's try the other one. See if that goes on. There we go. So that goes on there. Very simple. That pushes on there, and then the tank, when it's on, holds that on. So that's the principle of that. But look, first, we've got to get really involved and strip this front end down. So to that end, as ever, I've lost my spanner I was using. What was I using that for? I have to see. I'll spend more time looking for spanners that I've put down right under my nose than anything else. So what sizes are these? They look like 10mm. So here we go. We're just going to go carefully because these are into aluminium. So first thing, I think, we get the mudguard off. Try and get that off. There we go. Right, one front mudguard. They look kind of cool without the front mudguard. Makes me tempted to bobble it. Right, that's that. Now we're going to want to get the front wheel out. I need a screwdriver. Now these these wheel nuts have a split pin in, which you should renew every time. You can reuse them, and if you're stuck and you haven't got one, it's better to have a second-hand one than not one at all, because that pin that's through there, see, this is castellated, there's holes, there's 2 holes in this, so you put that in and it means that nut can't loosen. Right, we've got the bike safely propped up on an engine plate actually. This thing didn't really fit in without it being on the engine, and that's aluminium, and these would not be good. You might crack the case, I doubt it, but it's not good practice. So, look, we've got the front wheel off the ground, cables out, mudguard off. We're actually ready to sort of start disassembling it a bit. So, but before I take the wheel out, because it's still reasonably safe like it is, I'm just going to start loosening the bolts that hold this front end together, just to see if these are seized. That's all right. I'm not going to loosen them fully because I don't want the forks to drop out at the moment. But it's good to have the wheel in case you get a stubborn one and you've really got to lean on it. Oh, these are remarkably okay. I don't think this front end's been on for a very long time. I think it's kind of been recently taken apart. So I'm just going to crack these because obviously these are the pinch bolts that hold this whole lot in, that one there and on the top yoke. And another thing we should do, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm going to leave it clamped just to get this big nut to loosen it, because once they're out, because I've decided that fairing's really heavy. This suspension from my first test ride, it's a bit saggy. So I'm going to put something in the top here to compress the springs a bit, just to stiffen it up a bit, because it needs doing even without a fairing, and it's an old dodge. You can just put coins in, or make a spacer, or cut a bit of tubing, and what that does is the spring is up against the nut at the top here. Well, if you put a spacer in, the spring's there instead of up there, and it stiffens it. It's a way of getting a bit more use out of tired springs, just to stiffen them up. I want to stiffen them up anyway, because it wasn't designed to have that weight fairing on it. So even if they were brand new, you'd want to stiffen it. So we've got to get these top nuts off. I just want to crack them loose while they're clamped in here. You can put them in the vice and clamp them on the non-working area. So up this end here, you must never clamp in a vice down here on the forks. Right, I'm just going to, first of all, I'm going to pop the headlamp shell off, which is just 2 screws that hold this rib on, because I want to take the indicators off. Because remember, we're preparing all this lot for the big headlamp, so all this wiring's got to come out of here. Right, we've extracted the headlamp, glass and shell and everything, all the wiring's out. Looks a bit of a nightmare. Obviously that's hopefully not as bad as we think. I think I'll get that back together. Now I'm going to remove one fork leg. I'll be conscious to see how rusty these are under here. It could be a horror story. Hopefully not. So normally you can grab the fork leg here and twist it, but obviously this has got the springs on it, so you can't twist that. You can't get hold of it here to twist it, so it is a bit awkward. Look how rusty that is. My goodness. That's horrible. Well, let me stand that up somewhere safe. I think the working area, though, funny enough, is all right. This should just pull out of here. That just comes off of there. So that's that. That goes in there, obviously. Put that on the bench over here. When you're looking at this, the working area is remarkably all right. Those shrouds have let the water in. I mean, look at the state of that. It is truly horrible. But we are going to be covering this with gaiters, so you won't see that. So what I'm probably going to do is stick this on my little polishing wheel over there, which is in the corner, and just give these a lick over while they're out. Cramped in the corner here, I've got just a little, look, it's a bench grinder clamped to a thing. I've got my little polishing wheel, and I'm just going to give that a lick over just to see. I'm not really going to polish it properly now. I just want to see what kind of condition they will come up to. So, as you can see, this isn't very powerful. So I'm just going to, the thing with this is to keep it moving and try not to put any flat spots in it. This wheel is not very just going to give it a light lick over just to see. And go down it like that there. This is my general purpose mop. I've got much better ones for finishing and detailing. But I don't think we want this at that kind of level. Let's stop there for a minute, get round to the light. Right, I'm just giving it a wipe down with some auto sol to take any excess wax off. I mean, these were really corroded when I got the bike. And this will let you just see. You know what, I don't really want them that much better than that, because the rest of they'd stand out on the bike as being absolutely, you know, custom show spec, and the rest of the bike, well, isn't. Just get all the excess wax off, that's all I'm doing here. Give the chrome a wipe down. This is just the wax coming off all this black on here. And then just to finish it, the clean one, that's really for getting your fingerprints off when it is a immaculate job. But look, I haven't gone into detail around the back here, look, but I'll tell you what, when that's on the bike, that'll easily look good enough. Right, let's see if these things actually fit. I think they're a bit tight. A few tricks to get these on. They are a few mil smaller than they say. Oh no, they're perfect. Look. Do you know what? That is not bad. Let me get this over here. You can hold these on with cable ties temporarily. I'll get some nice stainless steel clips. When you compare that to that, I know that's the inside and it's worse, and this inside isn't as nice as that, but that, for a 40-year-old Bentley that's a rolling road restoration, I think is perfectly acceptable. I can definitely, you know, I can whip these out at another date once the fairing's on. But I think that's fairly neat and tidy. Right, that's the first fork leg. It's slotted back in. The gaiters fit perfectly. My measurements worked out all right for length and diameter at the top and diameter at the bottom. I had to go through loads to find those. In fact, I think I've ordered the wrong ones over there. So look, it's back in. It's not too rusted on the bit, you can see. There's a bit, but look, it's a 40-year-old bike and it's not a mint restoration. I think the quality of that's pretty much how I want it. I don't want it any more liquid metal polish than that. So now I'm going to take the other one out and do exactly the same. I might even spend a bit of time and cut some spacers. I'll show you fitting them when it's done. I'm not changing the fork oil. The seals on that one are all right. If the seal's gone on the other one, I will have to get seals, but we'll still get the fairing bolted on. So look, for a first stage, I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to do the other side while you're away, and when you come back, hopefully the other side will look roughly the same, and it'll be in there, and we'll be ready to hopefully start putting this little thing on. That is the main sort of fairing mount to go on, and then the headlamp goes on up here. So that's the first fork leg done. Let me do the second one, then you can rejoin and catch up on the next one for the next instalment of hopefully the bracket and the headlamp shell.